Bugs Bunny is the true terrorist of the multiverse, with his combinations of dropping a safe on you, intercontinental ballistic missiles, burrowing and then coming out from another side, or putting all of it together and just throwing things through his burrows. I'm going to show why he is so powerful, and for one of my own personal reasons, he's one of the best mages in the game. In fact, in this particular clip, he's so obnoxious that Finn the human couldn't even commit to living anymore, and he commits the atrocity of seppuku. So, let's get started. Right off the bat, his first ability is the hammer, his neutral attack. It's a pretty decent amount of damage, and on top of it, it's a great follow-up for charms or stuns. If you jump in the air, you spin like a ballerina. Using this ability, as you can see here with Garnet, I am actually able to set up a lot of good combinations, if it wasn't for my inability to actually play the game like Hungrybox. But you're going to have a lot of trouble when you fight players like Batman. Batman's ability to constantly pull you in range and jump on top of you kind of stops your setups, although I think that might be my own lack of ability. Now that we have his ability of his boxing maneuver, it breaks the armor, and you can use it to manipulate the safe. This is an incredibly important tool because you can get cute little damage off or set up combos as we saw here. Now we have the pie. The pie ability applies a slow. If you jump in the air and throw the pie while it's armed, you throw it. If you don't, you beat the shit out of somebody with a hammer. And that's insane. Using these combinations, you're able to deny your opponent range because you're able to attack from it. You can also throw the pie into the burrows and it will travel, which can actually catch people off guard, and it's funny as shit. Next we have his wallop. I like to call it that. You basically kick people in the air, and it's a really good thing to follow up. And if you do a jump attack, you will instead kick and charge it up. You can use these things in combinations with a charm or with the boxing maneuver, and to get a nice follow-up attack on it. Again, most of his abilities is just following up in preparation. You can prepare your opponents with a charm into a wallop, or vice versa. Now we also have the rocket. If you use the rocket, it goes on cooldown and you spin your ears like a helicopter. You can use this both horizontally and vertically, and that's very important. The rocket can also go through the burrow, just like the safe and the pies. It's very important though, when you shoot it up, it takes forever to come down. But that means if you remember in time, you can set up with charms, or if you have a bigger brain and you do a knock up, you can shoot it and redirect it to go back up and hit your opponent in the face. And it's really tilting. In fact, I think it's probably what gives Bugs Bunny one of the highest skill ceilings in the game, at least from my perspective, from a StarCraft. Because if you're planning out attacks and combos about 15 plus seconds in advance and you nail those, you are going to be confusing the shit out of your opponent, and you are also creating potential area denials. Now, on top of it, we're working on with the specials. You can use your specials in different ways. The safe can, as I've said before, can go through the burrow, but more importantly as well, you can even pull stuff out like a Mr. Mises, which is your passive. You can pull a Mr. Mises, a two sets of TVs that have different abilities, a dynamite, and I believe a sandwich. Now the sandwich, if I'm not mistaken, has the same attributes as Shaggy, where it can heal your allies and slow the shit out of your opponents. Once again, these things are all based upon your combinations with your burrow, with your charms. Honestly, I think Bugs Bunny really has some of the most insane skill ceiling, because you are going to be doing combinations that don't have immediate payoffs. For example, Harley Quinn has some area denial with her Jack in the Box, and it lasts a while, but it does not last in insane while. That has movements to it. Now the safe, if you crack it open, can also provide some tools as well. I believe it's more likely you're going to get sticks of dynamites, but I think that's just my own personal RNG. When you have matchups like Harley Quinn, you're actually able to excel and just beat the crap out of her. This also goes the same with Finn the human. However, there are caveats with these situations. You have to play around the fact that you can't fight her when she has in the area where she has her Jack in the Box, but I think that's pretty common. Finn the human, however, you are going to be pretty good. As he is a horizontal based character, you are still going to have the leverage of just setting up. He has to come into you, which is fine because you can set up charm plays, or you can dodge all of his scary aerials with burrowing or your insane jumps. Bugs Bunny is a very powerful character, and all you have to do is find the proper combinations for the scenario. You're going to have a very hard time against heavier heroes like Superman, Batman, Garnet, Bruisers in particular, but mostly I think it's because that they just have a lot of control. Batman is going to throw an insane amount of boomerangs at you, and he can also pull himself into you pretty quickly. Garnet has the same ability, except what separates those two from the mobility of Finn the human is that Finn is a very light character in comparison. Once Garnet's on top of you, you are going to take a pretty decent beating, but as I've said, I think that's mostly my own skill gap, my own skill in deficit. Batman, however, I do believe is a very strong counter. He is able to constantly close the gap, deny you of your preparations, and even if you feel like you're setting up correctly, the amount of damage that he takes is kind of pretty good. Like, he can take a pretty decent beating. As you can see here, I'm actually being punished quite a bit for my grappling. But you can deny his boomerangs if you throw a pie or a safe at him. A little weird, I know that my fruit-filled pie is a counter to a boomerang, but I'm not going to complain. I am a giant furry, apparently. One of the biggest things when you're fighting against Batman is his combinations are pretty quick, and the cast time or the animation to set up your charm is a little too long for that. Although, I think with the perk that allows the charm to stay in a little area does provide some utility, I still believe that that's not enough to protect you against the amount of mobility that Batman can close with. But, again, as I've said, I think there's a little bit of skill gap. He is in a very powerful character. One of the things about Bugs Bunny that you really need to emphasize, and I cannot stress this enough, is your setups. I think if you take some time to practice and learn how long combinations take to last, for example, how long his missile takes to come back down, you can set up some pretty wonky plays where you do a knock-up with your vault from a hammer into the rocket. Again, these are long investments, and this is I personally think what makes Bugs Bunny an absolute menace to master, and even more so, a menace to fight. But you are going to be fighting a lot of heroes, especially with Batman and Shaggy. Shaggy is another hero that has the ability to take quite a beating and also dish it out. He's a very horizontal-based character. His kicks are very, very obnoxious, and the sandwiches are just as obnoxious, but a little bit more consistent than Bugs Bunny's pies, since you only carry the 2 charges. I have to say that Bugs Bunny is a blessing of fun. He is outrageously obnoxious to fight. You can be as aggressive as possible, or you can be an annoying little crap, as I am, and just jump back and forth in your house, your little burrows. He also has some pretty good leverage, ledge coverage. You can beat the shit people down if you decide to prepare it. Again, long investments to deny them from reclimbing up or to force a certain cooldown. Especially if you go against another Bugs Bunny and you can deny a rocket. That actually takes away a lot of his horizontal leverage, especially when he's trying to recover off the sides. One of the biggest things that you do, again, have to be careful with it, is wasting your abilities incorrectly. It's very easy to just constantly spam your abilities, as I'm very guilty of this. One of the things, though, you have to remember is if you land charms, you have the ability to pick the follow-up that you want. This has to be done quickly since it's not very long, but getting a free up kick or using the hammer, you can easily set up executions. I do not recommend the fact that you throw a pie in their face unless you have the ability to immediately land charms off. The pie is not the most damaging, but the slow that it is applied allows you to create the followings to happen. For example, you'll be able to easily land and continue to get charms off. But the cooldowns are the biggest issue. Bugs Bunny is just a hero with an insane list of combinations, but extremely cooldown reliant. And it's fantastic. I think this is a hero that's going to be benefiting off punishing players that are enjoying themselves a little too much and not thinking about if Bugs is going to jump on you or not. Anyways, I want to say thank you. This is my very first video and my first time playing these types of fighting games since I'm not a child anymore, being very young. I wanted to hear your comments and thoughts. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.